So, I hope all of you are doing well, and I'm sure you would have listened to the last session where we discussed on the barriers to communication. And I hope you really remember how I started off my last session where we discussed the barriers affecting our communication. So, here we are going to study the last topic in this particular chapter called directing. Today we're going to be learning the how important effective communication is. It doesn't really refer only to the organization. Yes, the chapter relates to organization, but in an individual person's life also communication is very important. Why? Because we are not speaking to our own selves, we are speaking to the other person who's in front of us. So we need to effectively communicate what is in our mind. So we need to understand that every person is different, every person's needs and preferences are different. Based on that, we need to communicate. So that is what we are going to be learning, or let's say studying in this particular session. So this particular topic is a very important 8 marker in terms of your final exam. So please, and one more thing, it's a very easy topic. It's not very complicated as well. So before we can move on into our session, we are going to read a quote and understand that this, whatever you are studying, is not only related to your subject, it's also related to your life. Because when you start working in an organization, you need to understand it's just that you're not getting educated as a BCom or a BCA holder or MCA masters. It's just that you have to have some basics what you're learning as ethics in your life. So that is the reason I'm saying communication should be very effective. You need to understand what the other person needs from you, and what you need to communicate. You should be very clear. And even in our day-to-day lives, we need to make sure we are effectively communicating what we need the other person to understand. So there's a quote for you that I have put here. To effectively communicate, we must realize. Realize means what? We must all realize and think that we are all different. That means the person who you're talking to is also different. The person who's listening is also different. Every person is different in the way we perceive means think the world, and use this understanding. That means what? Every person is different is what we need to understand. So since we understand that every person is different, we need to ensure that we are using our communication as a proper guide so that it can help others. Which should not be that we are affecting others. We should be able to help others communication. So that is a topic that we are going to be learning today as an 8 marker. So please mark it very important and make note of it. Okay, and this is the last topic in your chapter. Most of the time this topic comes in your final exams. So how to improve communication effectively. Okay, you have 8 points, and it is very basic points if you can actually listen to what I'm saying. So the first one is clarify the idea before communication. Now, when we are going to speak to someone, let's say I'm the person who's going to be the sender and you are the person who's going to be the receiver. So the sender is encoding the message and sending it to you, okay, through a medium, or through a medium. So what is it? I have to first clarify the idea before communication. So let's say I'm your manager and you are my subordinate, or you're my employee. Before I can communicate the idea to you, before I can open and speak out, I need to first analyze and think in my mind whether this is how I need to go ahead and tell my employees that they are supposed to do the job. Why? Because I need to do an in-depth study, or I need to analyze and sit and think, can this confuse my employees? Can this create problems within my employees? So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to think. I'm supposed to have clear perspectives of what I want to speak to my subordinates. So that is the first thing. I'm sure when you speak to your friends also, sometimes there will be people who will actually think and speak to their friends because they don't want the other person to have hurt feelings towards them. But some other people, they speak, they blurt it out, and then later they realize, oh, I did a mistake by speaking, I should have thought. So what is it? If you want to be an effective communicator, first you need to clarify, you need to think, you need to speak to someone, you need to check whether it's the right thing to do, and then only you need to go ahead and clarify the details to your subordinates. Until then, you should not open your mouth. So the second point is, so the words that you need to underline is the problem to be communicated to the subordinate should be very clear in all perspectives to the executives himself. That means you first should be knowing what you want to communicate. You cannot go and just blabber there. The entire problem should be studied in depth. That means you should know what the entire issue is before you want to go ahead and communicate. Probably it's going to be like working extra hours, or probably it's going to be that you're not going to pay them for the next 10-15 days. So first you should know the in-depth situation of why you're not going to go ahead and pay them, and then you can go ahead and you can convince them. The second point is communicate according to the needs of the receiver. Now this is very important. Now let's say I'm coming and teaching you, let's say, English. Now when I'm teaching you English, let's say instead of teaching you the subject English, I teach you more of business studies. Will you really like it? No. So what is it? You would say it is an English class, and you, instead of teaching me an English chapter, you're taking something that's different, and this is not really, I'm not really interested in what you're saying. So what is it? I need to communicate to the needs of the receiver. That means the subordinate wants to find find out what is the solution to the problem, but you are not solving. As a manager, you're not solving his problem. You are hitting around the bush and you're saying, yeah, I will get back to you. Yes, this is pending, I know it. So what are you doing? You're not really communicating, or you're not helping the particular subordinate or the employee. So communicating according to the needs of the receiver. The level of the understanding of the receiver should be crystal clear. Now receiver is the subordinate here. So what are they saying? Some subordinates may not able to understand what the manager is saying. Okay, so what the manager should do, when a manager knows that one employee is different from the other employee, he should ensure that he is going to the very much low basic level of speaking to that particular person. Like example, in the organization where I was working, I told you there were a lot of people who were Kannadigas and Malayalis and Telugites and all these people. But one such man, he was excellent in his job, but when it came to his English was not very good. His communication skills was not very good, but he was a team leader. And his mother tongue was, let's say, example, I'll just say his mother tongue was Kannada. So what used to happen is, when the manager wanted to go to the ground reality and make this person understand something, directly the manager would start speaking in Kannada. Why? Because it would give that employee, that team leader, a proper feel, or telling that, okay, the manager is speaking to me in my mother tongue. That means this thing is something that's really important. If the manager is going to speak in, like, let's say, very good English, where the team leader is not able to understand English, the team leader would actually be thinking, what I'm not really able to understand, and that message would be passed incorrectly to the other subordinates also. So that's the reason they are saying communicate according to the needs of the receiver. The manager should adjust his communication according to the education and understanding level of the subordinates. The third point is consult others before communicating. Okay, so what am I saying here? Before I'm going to communicate something really important to you, first I will ensure that I'm going to ask someone for suggestions. That is what most of y'all do. Y'all go to your best friends and you say, hey, you know what, I want to tell this to all our friends. Do you think this is the right time to tell? Do you think this is the right thing for me to say? So same thing happens in the organization also, but you'll not go to your friends. Your manager will first discuss with his higher level authorities or the top level management, depending on whatever needs, whatever information has to be told to the subordinates. First there will be a proper discussion, and then they will bring out that discussion to you in a proper crystal clear manner, so that there is no confusion that's taking place between the employees at the lower level. So what is happening? You need to consult others even before you start talking out or giving information to the subordinates. So when you are crystal clear in what you are speaking, the employees will also cooperate. The employees will also be willing to work in to the sorry to for the work that they want to do. The next one is Then, okay, the next one is be aware of languages, tone, and the content of message. Now, what is this be aware of language? As a manager, I cannot speak in a tone that is really high. When do you use a tone that's really high? When you are a little upset, when you are a little angry, when you are a little, let's say you want someone to do something that you are asking them to do. Okay, so that is when your tone will rise a little. And so what are they saying? Be aware of the language. You just cannot speak in Kannada, you just cannot speak in Hindi. What about the others who do not understand the language? So you should ensure that you are following instructions by speaking in English, and when you are communicating, your tone is really calm. Calm means I'm not saying very low, but I'm saying it's in a normal way where the message is understood by the receiver in a very appropriate and very proper manner. There is no confusion. Imagine if the manager's tone is really high or harsh, will the message go into the subordinate's mind? No. Why? Because every time you're speaking so harsh, the subordinate will think that this person is mad and this person is, I don't know for what reason he's shouting at me. I don't even want to listen to what he is saying. So that is the reason it is very important, if you want to effectively communicate something, you should ensure that the language used should be understandable to the receiver, and it should not offend the sentiments of the listener. That means you cannot speak in a very high tone. You should ensure that you are very polite. And the fifth one is convey things of help and value to the listeners. That means what? When a person is, when an employee is asking you questions, you should ensure that you are giving proper appropriate answers to the questions. It's not that you don't know the answer yourself, but you just want to answer the question, so you're giving some wrong answers. So is that something that is going to add value to the listener? No, he would say this person doesn't even know what I'm asking. Example, I'll tell you. I had a team leader, I had a manager also. Our manager was from our same a manager and we used to work in the same team. So this, all of a sudden my team leader left the organization, so a new team leader replaced that particular role. This new team leader came from a very different department. He did not know how our accounts department functions. So what used to happen was, every time our manager used to get fed up because we all used to go only to him asking for doubts. So there was one point of time where the manager told that the team leader is also there. You please go and ask him the doubts that you all have. How much ever he can solve, it would be of help. Now it is an 8-hour job what we are doing in an MNC company. So every time we had a doubt, we used to go to the team leader and ask him the doubt what we had. What do we have to do with this particular email? Now this particular team leader would not know head or tail of what we are telling. He'd say, I will ask the manager and get back to you. And again my friend goes, she'll say, I'll ask the manager and get back to you. So what used to happen was, it used to cause delay in our work. So he would not speak sense to what we need. He would say, did you do this? Did you try doing that? Did you do this? We would have done all the basic research of what we had to do in that job, and then only we would ultimately go to the team leader or to the manager. So what is happening? Convey things of help and value to the listener. Here, do you really think the team leader is adding value to whatever questions we are asking? No. So that is why it's getting the communication is not very effective, and we ended up going and complaining to the manager, telling we are not getting much help from the team leader. It is wasting a much of our time. Please ensure that you're replacing him with a proper team leader who knows really things about the process. So the next one is, now while conveying message to others, it's better you know the interest and needs of the people. Like what I was telling you, the team leader needs to know what he is communicating and what am I asking. if the message relates directly or indirectly to such interests and needs, it certainly invokes response from communicating. That it's okay. Please the point that I've underlined, concentrate on that particular point. Sixth one, ensures proper feedback. Now, what is this feedback? Always there is a session in the organization where every month, based on our performance, we would have a one-to-one meeting with our team leader or with our manager. During that session, the team leader or the manager would ask the employee, do you have any concerns? Do you have any feedback that you want me to, that I would help to sort it out? So that time, as a subordinate, if we had any problem, we would tell our manager these are the things that's actually affecting. I don't really understand what you are speaking when you say I'm not really able to do the job. So what is it? You are able to give your own feedback on whatever the other person is communicating. So what is it? Feedback is closing the link, or let's say feedback is ensuring that the sender is also understood, that the receiver is able to understand what you are speaking. Okay, because it's two-way communication. See, example, when this lady is speaking, this girl should be able to understand. When this girl is speaking, this lady is supposed to understand. So how are both of them able to understand that they have understood? The lady will ask the girl, am I clear in what I'm telling you? Do you have any suggestions to me? The girl would say, yes, I'm not really understanding what you're saying. I'm really clear with what you are saying. So what is it? Feedback is very important. It means you're asking questions, okay, regarding regarding the message that is being conveyed. So this also encourages people the way they have to talk or listen. The next one is communicate for present as well as for future. Now, what are they saying? When you communicate, when the manager is speaking to you, the manager would say, you are doing really great as an employee in your job. I'm really sure you are going to go get promoted really soon, because I'm seeing that all your stats or all your, let's say you have achieved the target. So what is he saying? He is encouraging the employee to dream for the future. He's just not talking for the present. He's even talking for the future. So what is happening? The subordinate is also motivated, and the communication helps to aim for future goals. Okay, so the employee is also aiming to achieve or be there in the organization for his future goals. The eighth one is follow-up communications. Now, in the organization, I was telling you every month we used to have one-on-one meeting. One-on-one meeting. Why is it called one-on-one meeting? Because it'll only be my manager and me, or my team leader and me. That's how it's going to be with every one of us. That's why I've put this here. So what is going to be discussed is every our monthly stats, that is our monthly performance, is going to be calculated by the team leader or the manager, and they're going to discuss that with us. Any problems or any suggestions the team leader and the manager have, they are going to tell us that you need to improve here, you're taking a lot of leaves, I think you have to, you're doing excellent, you're doing really a good job. So what is happening? And then they would say, again next month we would meet, depending on based on your performance. I hope that your performance is going to be on the top notch or really good. So what is this? This is called as follow-up communication. Depending on what communication you had with your team leader, with your manager, with your subordinates, you would ensure that in the future also you would follow up with your communication. So what is happening? The person who is at the opposite end, like example, now from my opposite end, you are there listening to what I'm saying. Now how am I able to understand that you listen to this video? I'm going to ask you questions, right? And I'm going to tell you, please send me a message, or please ensure that you are asking me questions and type the answer. So what is happening? I'm able to understand that you are listening to whatever I'm saying. That's nothing but it's called as follow-up communication. Understood? So there should be regular follow-ups and reviews on the instructions given to the subordinates. So if I'm asking you to improve on a certain job or on a certain thing that I've asked you to do, I will follow up with you again next month or after 2 weeks to ensure that there is no hurdles, there's no problems, and you are following instructions. The last one is be a good listener. What is the meaning of be a good listener? Only if you are going to close your mouth and listen to what the other person is saying, you will be able to understand and you will be knowing what the other person is trying to communicate. If you are going to keep interrupting, then you cannot actually understand what the other person is trying to communicate. So what is it? Be a good listener. Eyes are on the speaker. So see there, look at the picture here. Eyes are on the speaker. When a person is talking, the mouth is quiet. That means your lips are sealed. Your hands are still. You're not fidgeting things. You're not fidgeting your books or your pencils. Brain is thinking about what is being said. That means you're really listening to what the other person is saying. It's not that your mind is wavering off. It's not that you're physically present and mentally absent. Ears listen carefully. Okay, you're listening carefully, and feet are still. That means you're not getting distracted when the other person is talking, and you're listening to what the other person is talking. You're paying attention. So attentive, sorry. So when you are paying attentive to what the other person is talking, you help. When once the communicator is completed his job, you will open your mouth and you will be able to give suggestions, you will be able to give ideas, and you will be able to be a problem solver. Okay, so these are the 9 points for improving your effective communication. Again, I would repeat, the first one is clarify the idea before communication. That means you think in your mind what you want to speak. The second thing is communicate according to the needs of the receiver. That means what? When you are speaking to the subordinate, you need to understand what's the level of understanding of the subordinate. Okay, whether he'll be able to understand the how you are speaking, or whether you need to go a little slow or a little fast. Third one, consult others before communicating. That means what? If you have any confusions, if you feel that the other person is not able to understand what you're speaking, you will consult your friends, you will consult your top level management. Be aware of your language. Your tone cannot be very high, and the content of message, okay, whatever you are going to communicate, so that it is crystal clear. Convey things of help and value to the listener, ensuring that you're going to be a help by listening to the other person and being able to solve his problems rather than just hitting around the bush. Ensure proper feedback is given. That means what? Depending on the performance of the subordinates, as you have communicated, you will ensure that you're going to update him and you're going to ensure that he is able to follow up with you and do well in the organization. So that goes with follow-up action also. Communicate for the present as well as the future. That means whatever communication you're doing, you're not just speaking about the present, you're also telling about the future, telling that if you achieve your goals now, you're going to get promoted, you're going to get bonus. So what are you doing? You're motivating the employee. And the next one, the last one, is be a good listener. So what is it? If you want to understand what the person is speaking in front of you, first you need to close your mouth, be a good listener, and then if you have doubts, you can open your mouth and ask once the once the speaker is done. So this particular answer, again, I will mark it here, is a very important 8 marker. Now this, we come to the close of this chapter. I thought, again, let me put the mind map for you of all the topics that we have completed so far. Now, we completed meanings. If you actually look, I've broken the elements of directing into 4. That's supervision. Under supervision, you have meaning and importance. Now, importance of supervision is also called role played by a supervisor for an 8 marker. Under motivation, you have many 8 markers, 4 markers, 5 marker, and 2 marker. And that is the, yes, that's B. That's the second element. Now the third element is communication. Leadership is also there. Under leadership, I have not put it here. Under leadership, you have the qualities of a good leader. You have the styles of a good leader. You have defined leadership, and you have who is a leader. Okay, that is under this third element of directing. The fourth element is communication, and please understand, communication is a very important topic when it comes to scoring your marks. So please ensure this chapter is a very important scoring chapter. Nowhere you are going to leave this chapter. So this is the mind map of the chapter, but I've forgotten to include leadership. Again, I will repeat. Under leadership, you have define leadership, who is the leader. Then you have qualities of a good leader. Then you have leadership styles. So please ensure you're learning this chapter. Anything. Now this is a topic that we learned today. That is importance of improving communication effectively. Okay. This topic is what we learned today, and barriers of communication we learned last session. So please ensure you're learning this chapter depending on the map. Okay. Now your final thoughts on the topic. Any doubts, any questions, okay, any feedback that you want to give me? Ma'am, you can improve by teaching this way. Ma'am, we are not able to understand this. Ma'am, the presentation was very good. Please ensure that you are able to help me by probably typing or sending a message in your comment section, so that I will be able to help you in whatever doubts you are having. Please like, please subscribe, please share it, so that you are able to gain knowledge. Thank you so much.